The recent assassination attempts on President-elect Trump send a shockwave through the law enforcement community. What can we do better to protect those who lead us? That's the topic of today's podcast. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There is safety in numbers.
The information provided in our podcasts is for general information uses only and is not intended as legal advice. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are their own. Always consult with a qualified professional before making safety and security decisions. For more information about this topic, check out our website at safesecure360.com. Welcome to the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There is safety in numbers. Thank you for joining us, Robert. I'm so curious to hear what you have to say about this. In Butler, Pennsylvania last year during an election rally, Donald Trump someone tried to kill him. They climbed a building and shot at him. Tell us a little bit more about how that went into play, and then let's sort of talk about what happened and talk about what could have been different.
Well, that's right. President-elect Trump was speaking at an outdoor event in Butler, Pennsylvania, kind of a suburb-type place, kind of a rural setting, who was not accustomed to an event of this magnitude, of this importance, of this crowd draw. They weren't prepared, really, and that showed later in the way that this went. But I think that they tried through law enforcement and through fire and EMS to at least acknowledge and cooperate with the Secret Service and federal protective groups that were in charge of personal protection of President-elect Trump and the entire process. So I think that how unfortunate it was that this lone shooter was able to enter this event, and video shows us of him walking around areas that were not populated by anyone else. He certainly had no role as a staff member or organizer or asset for the event. However, you see him sitting on a picnic table, you see him walking around between buildings, and the real shocking part is you see him with a rangefinder, a device used to determine how far away something is from where you are. It's a digital device that you look through, and it tells you if you're 50 yards, 100 yards. It's typically used many purposes. Golfers use it, hunters use it. It has multiple uses, but my question is, why would you bring that to a political event where the President-elect of the United States is speaking? What purpose is that? What value is there in that? And what risks should have been detected? How did this shooter bring a firearm there? Was it placed on top of a building before the event? Did he bring it in and no one saw it? Was he carrying a bag? I don't know all the specific details about it. But I can tell you that for this to happen at the distance in which it happened is shocking. This was not a professional assassin or a shooter who was very experienced, apparently, in firearms or in accuracy shooting. Fortunately for the president-elect, that's a good thing. So you have to wonder how all of these pieces perfectly lined up to get him on top of that roof with a rangefinder, with a rifle, with ammunition, and allow him to, what I believe, fire 8 bullets from a semi-automatic weapon. SAFESECURE 360. We are a security consulting group located in the Woodlands, Texas. We assist our multiple clients by reducing the risk, loss, and reputation impact. We also do full security assessments on their facilities, large churches, large private schools in Texas, and we want to help you. Take a look at our website, SAFESECURE360.com.
You described several different agencies working there, and several scenes like this that we've talked about. There have been different agencies that all come together. Is that part of what goes wrong in situations like this? That there's too many teams that aren't cooperating? What's happening between the agencies, and what's the ideal situation for all of the Secret Service, local police, and SWAT team, whoever else is there?
When you begin planning an event of this level, it's very high level. I mean, it is a big deal. And planning for this event started weeks ahead of time. Where are we going to do this? What's the location? Where are the hospitals? What's the community around here? What's the historical crime events? What's our threat intelligence? An advance team from the federal protective agencies are going to go to this location, and when they get there, they're going to be met by local police, city police, perhaps sheriffs who are in charge of the county law enforcement, and also perhaps state police who are in charge of even broader range. But there's going to be an integration of all of those agencies together with the common goal of having a safe and secure event where no one's injured, no one's certainly shot, and I think that a lot of things went wrong here. And I think it's very valuable to think about this and then learn from it to be able to prevent this from happening in the future.
What is the commonality when you have different groups coming together? There has to be something they all agree on. In a case like this, we talk a lot about policy, especially over the last couple of weeks. Is there a single policy that goes into play here, or is everybody operating under the guise of their own policy?
Someone has to be in charge. And typically on an event like this where the president-elect is traveling with Secret Service protection, there's going to be a package that travels with him. And they're going to be intelligence gathering people. There's going to be personal protective details. There's going to be perimeter protective details. You'll see men or women in suits or around him. There's several layers of that. One is a very in-close protection. Another one may be further away. Then eventually you may see people who are counter-assault people or people that are dressed a different way, like in a military-type uniform. And those are counter snipers or snipers who are charged with the responsibility of using force and deadly force, if necessary, to interrupt, stop, detect, prevent anyone, not just the protectee, but anyone from being in danger. So in this scenario, it's been my experience working things like this in the past. The Secret Service typically is the lead agency, and they're going to have a protective plan, and they're going to have a manager within their group who is going to be the site supervisor, and they're going to set the rules and set how things are going to go, the timing, the evacuation, the arrival, the departure, all of those together. Now, they can't do it alone, so the Secret Service must rely on state, county, and local law enforcement to supplement them. So the ideal scenario is that everyone agrees that this agency is in charge and that the safety and security plans are briefed with all the other law enforcement people, and everyone's on the same page far ahead of the arrival of the protectee? Has the site been secured in advance? Have there been bomb detection or other technology to rule out that? Have they looked for any type of shooter? Have they looked for any type of prohibited item that could have got into the place? Are they searching or inventorying people as they come in? How do you get that close? Who's sitting there? Who is going to be within almost arm's length of the protectee, the president-elect? So it's very tense and it's very serious because all it takes is a second. And you don't know if there's one suspect involved, multiples, you don't know. You don't know if there's a remote device that could explode, or you just don't know. Outdoor settings like this are very difficult to manage because you don't have the infrastructure around you to close a door, to lock a window, to pull a shade down, to segregate them into some other room. It's just a common area. And what you do have going for you is, well, you have some vehicles there that you could rush someone into, and that's ultimately what happened. That's your safe space. But before that happens, you saw when the shots went off and the president-elect was hit in his ear, just about this further to the other way, and that's it, right? Mm-hmm. So you saw also the rapid response of the close-in protectee detail jump into action and heroically place themselves in the line of fire. They don't know how many more bullets are coming, how many shooters are, they don't know. All they know is their training kicks in and they say, look, protect and shield that protectee and remove him or her from the risk. And that's what they did. Other assets then, through developing intelligence, knew or should have known that this risk was occurring and increasing and becoming real before the first shot was fired. So there was obviously a breakdown in observation, in communication, intelligence gathering and sharing, which resulted in this almost killing Donald Trump. So how's that possible? Who is in charge? And the big question they're going to ask, who do we blame, right? So someone's in charge, and what systemically broke down. And that's going to be certainly a topic for a long time to come in the reenactments and all of the visits and all of the technology they're going to be using to figure out what happened so we can prepare for the future.
That's interesting. We've talked about that sort of like that, like there's an investigation going on. What goes into an investigation after something like this? What do they do?
Well, after, let's call this an after-action event or analysis, right? So first of all, the threat in this case was not discovered until it was too late, right? And then once it was discovered, after the damage was done, that person was neutralized and taken out. So we think that was, and it appears that was the shooter. There was one person who was the shooter from an aerial perspective on top of a building very close to a rifle range from the protectee, right? So once that threat, and we don't know if there are additional threats or he had co-conspirators in the crowd, we just don't know that. What we do know is that that person was neutralized, and once that happens, then remember, the protectee is going to be shielded and removed, if possible, and it was possible, and they did do that. They know the hospitals, they know the routes, they have on-board advanced life-saving first aid, they're all trained in that. So once the protectee's out, and once the shooter is neutralized that we know of, then the risk level starts to settle down again. However, we have a crime scene now, right? A crime has been committed by who we think did it and all the things leading up to that ability to do so. We have witnesses, 10, 20,000 witnesses, cameras, TV, satellite. I mean, we have a lot of people saw this happen. It wasn't a mystery. And so how do we look for and how do we preserve evidence? Well, there's two major crime scenes going on at the same time. There's one on top of the building with the shooter and his gun and whatever he has on him, maybe multiple guns, and his manifesto or phones or recording device, whatever he has. That's a crime scene that needs to be processed and segregated off and not allow anyone around there. And then second crime scene is where the shooting occurred with the president-elect. That's a crime scene. So it's all a crime scene, but you have two different areas and the space in between the shot from the rooftop to him, right? So also you have other people who were collaterally damaged. That's maybe not the right word. They were shot also because the shooter apparently wasn't a very accurate shot. And in the haste of shooting those rapid rounds, two other people I understand were injured by rifle fire, but have since been recovered. So they're part of the crime scene. They're witnesses who saw this happen to them. And so all of these factors are important. But once the principal's been removed and once medical care has been given to these other people who were shot, you could have had other people injured too, who could have been trampled or stepped on or jumped off of something, trying to get away from all this. I don't know those, but I wouldn't doubt it. The crime scene processing then starts with evidence collection and witness statements, and it's a very complex process, identifying who the shooter is, and then going the extra mile then to obtain legal authority to search his home or his car and find out more and more and more. So that's how it would typically occur, and apparently it did in this case.
And in the after-action analysis and the crime scene investigation, they're looking for, they want to make sure there's no loose ends. Is that what I'm hearing you say? That this is the one shooter and that this all ties into him, this is the guy. Are they also looking for things to help prevent this from happening in the future? Are they comparing it to commonalities of other incidents that are similar? I'm curious about how do we learn from events like this? We probably do a really good job of investigating the crime scenes. But then how do we share the information with the people that investigated another similar shooting attempt and learn something from that?
There are certainly lessons learned from every type of critical event like this. This is a big deal, right? So someone at the top of all these agencies is asking, what the hell went wrong? What do you mean someone shot the president in his, or the president-elect in his ear? What are you talking about? Imagine getting that phone call. Or imagine seeing that happen right in front of you, and you're a heavy hitter law enforcement guy or lady, and there it goes. All of the planning you did, all the research, the intelligence, all of the steps you took, all of the advanced work that you did, gone because you failed. And it's just a 100% positive or 100% negative. There's no in between. And this situation failed, unfortunately.
How do you deal with that? I mean, some would probably want to give up. Some would probably want to overcompensate afterwards. I don't know, depends on the person. But how do you deal with that from a security standpoint, from the head of whatever organization, the top heavy hitter? How are they going to deal with that, and what mindset should they have maybe to move forward in a positive direction?
There's going to be multiple analysis of every single minute aspect what the temperature was, what the cloud cover was, how many people were there, what time did they arrive. It's going to be exhaustive. And each agency will do their own inquiry because they have a policy-driven mandate to do so. If someone shoots someone or someone happens in their jurisdiction, it's going to be a big deal. And I assure you, Butler, Pennsylvania, this was the big deal forever, probably, right? I think the president-elect's been back there. But now you see certain other countermeasures in place. He has a bulletproof shield around the front. You know, that's where was it the first time? You know, no one either thought about it or the campaign didn't approve it, or there was some reason why it wasn't there before, and now it is, right? So what other measures were in place? I'm sure there were multiple other ones that they learned from. So I think that it's a tough job to do, and our law enforcement folks do a great job. Mm-hmm. But I think that so many multiple factors occurred. But if you're you're not a trained law enforcement professional and you're watching this video of this guy walking around, and the next thing you know, the public is pointing up to him and saying there's someone on the roof to law enforcement, something went wrong. We should have known that. We should have intercepted them and stopped them. I'm not saying shoot them at that point, but we should have intercepted them and stopped them, affixed their identity, take them into custody, and hold them. We should have communicated to the stage, hold, because we have a potential threat developing here. And then are there other components of it somewhere else? I don't know. But we should have done more, in my opinion.
How can all the individual officers that were there that day, how can they continue to move forward confidently after being a part of something like this? What are some words from someone in your position? You have law enforcement experience where you managed lots of police crew. So what could the individual crew, how could they go forward confidently in their career from here?
There will be significant trainings that have occurred already that are going to hyper-analyze this event and point out what went wrong, what went right, and there's going to be additional resources, I'll guarantee you, for the second visit that weren't there the first time, and it's rightfully so. So I think that the individual departments are going, and everyone who was an enforcement role in this event are going to have significant amounts of retraining, of equipment analysis, of utilizing things that were not used this time. Why not a drone? Why would you not? All law enforcement agencies have drones now. It's a common thing. It's very unusual if you wouldn't. Why wouldn't you enact a drone in this and get an aerial perspective and be able to survey not only the site, the stage, the buildings around it? Why would you not do that? So why would you have to wait until the public is screaming at you that there's someone on the roof? Why wouldn't you have detected that yourself? I don't know the answer to that. But it appears to me that it was a breakdown in communication. They were on different radio frequencies. It was just a mess. So I'll bet you that that's changed, and it needs to change. Put egos out of the way and put real actions in place to have a predictably safe outcome.
When you're planning events, you're saying there's new measures that are going to be put in place that weren't there before. It's surprising that they didn't already prepare some of these measures before. How do you know at what point to stop preparing for an event? How do you know when to pull out all the stops, and how do you judge that pre-event? Those
will be leadership decisions that people that we empower and trust to protect us that would make. And we rely on and we have confidence in them that they would protect us. There's certainly been leadership changes at the top levels of some of these organizations since this event happened. And so I think that we have to have confidence, and I do, that our law enforcement, men and women, are risking their lives all the time. And few people know what that's like to do that, but it is a very dangerous thing to do, and I commend them.
Me too. Thank you to all law enforcement. That I keep just saying what a wild job to go into. The more I learn about it, how can we prepare for future events? There's going to be another presidential election in 4 years. There's going to be a campaign around that. There's going to be probably outdoor events similar to this one. How can we take what we learned in this and apply it to the things moving forward? What mindset can we gain from this?
Cooperation, intelligence gathering and sharing, communication, and working as a team versus individual compartmentalized departments is my advice.
When you have all of these teams coming together, is there a way that you can get them to communicate if anyone is resistant to it, or if anybody is showing their ego, like you said earlier? Is there a way, what's a good way to remind people of, hey, we're here to keep this place safe. That's our job here.
Someone is in charge of each one of these agencies. And if there starts to become a vibe or a feeling that that's occurring, it's incumbent upon them to identify it and stop it right away, because you're going to have negative outcomes if that continues.
Is there anything else we should know about this, or any other bit of information that might help us keep the world safer as people, practice their rights to go to a political rally, practice their right to run for president? These are rights people have in this country.
I think that I'll speak to the attendee part of it. I think that you should have confidence in our authorities that do a great job all the time. There's been hundreds of presidential or campaign stops, hundreds of them in any political season, and most of them work out just fine. So it's incumbent upon our law enforcement professionals to predict and to learn from past experiences and try to apply those lessons to future ones. And I think they're doing a great job at it.
You just touched on something for the public, for the regular person that's just scrolling on their phone on their lunch break and sees your voice. How can they balance being prepared for the reality of the world with living a normal life? What's a way that they can see something like this in the news, learn from it, but then still live normally and happily?
Well, I think you just have to balance out your personal safety and security, do common things the smart way versus enter into risky behavior, which exposes you to potentially becoming a crime victim. I think being globally aware of your surroundings and making steps, especially during the holiday season, taking steps to safeguard yourself and your property.
Well, thank you, Robert. This is really an interesting discussion about communication and about people working together, and that's inspiring. People can work together to make the world a safer place. That's what we're here to do at the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. We are sharing what we know just to help provide you with some best practices for your life and a feeling of comfort and safety that you know what's going on in the world, and you might even have a step towards what to do. So thank you for watching. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There is safety in numbers.